Well, good afternoon, everybody. My clock says noon, so let's go ahead and get started. For those of you who may not know who I am, this is Jay Byers, CEO of the Greater Des Moines Partnership. So thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, all of you, for all you're doing to keep DSM USA work that's been going on out there with all of you, and in these challenging times, and people stepping up and doing things that we never thought we would have to do, and without a playbook. So great job to everybody out there for all the great work you're doing. We've got a packed agenda for today. We've got some amazing content. We're going to be hearing from the CEOs of Hy-Vee and Fairway to learn more about their responses out there on the front lines. We're going to be getting an update from our healthcare systems, Unity Point Health, Des Moines, and Mercy One. And then we're also going to be getting a sneak peek into community celebration, of course, with the appropriate social distancing that we're working on here in the next week, along with a number of other really exciting updates with things that, again, our region has been doing. Just on another note, you know, keeping our eye on big picture economic development. There was another big ranking this week, which you may or may have not seen, but we were, DSM was ranked the #6 city with the most millennial homeowners by improvement.com. Again, great with that messaging in terms of our ability to attract and retain young professionals and making this a great place for the talent of the future. So that's great news for us as a region, and it is important for us to continue to celebrate those wins during these challenging times. Also, just wanted to give a quick preview. One of the things that the partnership team has been working on sort of behind the scenes is some frameworks and strategies for economic recovery. You're going to be hearing more about that in the next upcoming week, upcoming days, I should say. And we'll be focusing quite a bit on that on our call for next week as well, too. So just wanted to give just a little bit of a preview in terms of some of the things we've been working on, and some really exciting work coming forward on that front as well, too. Before we sort of get into our program, there is a quote by Admiral James Stockdale that was highlighted in Good to Great by Jim Collins, which I know many of you have read, but as many of you know, Admiral Stockdale was taken as a prisoner during Vietnam. And it was all about what could he do to sort of keep the faith that he would survive, but not knowing what that certainty really looked like. And that's sort of the situation we're sort of in right now. And his quote was, "You must never confuse faith that you will prevail in the end, which you can never afford to lose, with the discipline to control the most brutal facts of your current reality, whatever they may be." And that's sort of the situation we're all in right now. But again, we do need to keep that faith in the future. But we do need to confront those facts and move forward accordingly. And we're going to see lots of those examples here throughout this call. So without further ado, I'm going to first turn it over to Tiffany Tauschak, our Chief Strategy Officer, to give a few more updates from the partnership perspective.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks, everybody, for joining us this afternoon. I'll keep this brief. The partnership does continue to work on numerous initiatives in alignment with our 3 short-term strategies: keeping businesses in business, keeping people working, and keeping our community healthy. Just yesterday, we announced that the Downtown Farmers Market, presented by Unity Point Health Des Moines, will host a virtual market meetup, and that will be this Saturday at 8 o'clock, and you'll hear more about that later in the program. Our next In for Lunch virtual event is tomorrow with the High Crest, so grab your lunch and join us on the Downtown DSM Facebook page. We'll have a reminder about that later in the program as well. But In for Lunch was really created in alignment with keeping our community healthy and keeping our businesses in business strategies. And we're leveraging the DSM Local Challenge initiative that we created in partnership with Catch Des Moines, that's truly designed to show support of those local and small businesses. So we encourage you to participate. The DSM Local Challenge hashtag now has more than 3,100 posts and more than 32.7 million impressions. As you know, we continue to provide resources, virtual programming, and storytelling. It continues to be a top priority of the partnership in alignment with these 3 short-term strategies. And we launched our DSM USA weekly podcast last week. This is a weekly roundup of the most important news of the week from the partnership. So please keep an eye out for that and share that with your team members as well. You can listen to that podcast as well as our Leading in Times of Challenge podcast and the DSM Employment Ready podcast. Those are all available on our website, and we'll share that link in the chat box as well. Since April 1st, we have hosted 23 webinars and have posted 87 new blogs on the partnership website, and we are always looking to tell more stories from you. So please let us know if you have news to share or if there's a topic that you would like to cover. We are happy to help share those stories, especially stories of positivity and resilience. Our DSM Strong hashtag continues to perform very well. We've had over 4,000 posts, and we're now at more than 30.6 million impressions. So finally, two other quick updates that are new news as of today. The first is that just moments ago, we rolled out a new video featuring, the frontline workers at Hy-Vee, Fairway, Casey's, and Come and Go. So thank you to those partners for working with us. We will share that video link in the chat box so you can view it, but wanted to make sure that we were thanking and appropriately highlighting those frontline workers. Also, we are pleased to be partnering with Principal Charity Classic and the PGA on a special investors and members only briefing, and that is coming up this Monday at noon. We just sent out the invite this morning, so that should be in your inbox. Attendees will hear from the PGA Pro Jay Haas and PGA Tour President Miller Brady. They'll be talking about how major sporting organizations are managing this situation and what the outlook is for 2020. So please feel free to register. We'll add that registration link to the chat box as well. So with that, I will thank you again for all you're doing to help keep DSM USA strong, and Jay will move along with programming.
Thank you very much, Tiffany. I just remind everybody, if you're not speaking, to put your Zoom on mute. That will help us to be able to hear our speakers move forward. Thank you so much. As I mentioned earlier, our friends at Hy-Vee and Fairway have been leaders on the front lines during this pandemic and have been playing a critically important role in keeping our region healthy. And we are very lucky to be joined today by the CEO of Hy-Vee, Randy Edeker, and the CEO of Fairway, Reynolds Kramer. We know how very, very busy they are at this time, but both Hy-Vee and Fairway have just been doing extraordinary work, and we're very proud of having them in our region, not only what they're doing here in Des Moines, but with their network of stores across the Midwest. And so Randy and Reynolds, thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to hearing your comments. And please know that all of your frontline workers are on our thoughts and minds, and we really appreciate what they're doing every day to make sure that the food supply is safe and plentiful. Thank you so much. Randy, you want to kick it off?
Sure, absolutely. You can hear me fine? Okay. Yeah, I will just run through kind of what we've done and where we've been down this line. So for me, we started studying this sometime back. Kristen Williams, our Chief Health Officer, was assigned to kind of keep tabs on where this was going, especially when it started in China. It was in the Wuhan province, and so we started watching it there, moved, and we have some great individuals that really kept us in the forefront, especially, and I'll mention several times today, just the association work that we do, because they really helped us through this as we move forward. And so we were studying it. For us, really, it started for me with a phone call from the president. We had a call with 15 retailers on a Sunday evening, and that's when we really realized the scope of what was to come. And we started moving at that time. And so I broke this down into some categories. The first is just customer safety strategy. So we really went through a whole process. I won't read everything off because there's 35 things that we adjusted at store level to keep customers safe. Everything from social distancing, but really it started with bulk food, salad bars, making changes in the stores instantly. We closed our dining areas before it was even announced that we should. We just started looking at how we were going to take and approach social distancing within the store. And so I listed them all out. I'm not going to read them all off, but we've made, as I said, 35 different changes to the stores, from one-way traffic in the aisles. We put big red circles on the floor to set out what 6 foot looks like. We made several changes to how we operate all of our departments in the stores. We also came out with, and I think Fairway did this first, they came out with a senior and immunocompromised hour. We added that from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock. We also have aisles online pick up for immunocompromised and seniors now. We launched with a partnership with DoorDash. We have 20,000 free deliveries for customers and those seniors immunocompromised. We put a $500,000 match out for the food bank. We've also been working with a lot of suppliers because if you watch the media, they're actually plowing some crops under. And so we've been working with some of the suppliers to get that product and make donations. We've done it around our 8 states. That's worked very, very well. And we're just getting ready to donate 2,000 meals with a partnership with Wahlburgers to first responders in Minneapolis, Des Moines, Milwaukee, and Kansas City, where we have our Wahlburgers restaurants. The other thing we did, obviously, was just to focus on our frontline employees. And so 5 weeks ago, we installed the plexiglass dividers at all check stands. A week later, we went back and put plexiglass behind the checkers. If you go in now, we basically have our checkers in a plexiglass box almost, just trying to keep them segregated from the public. We had the luxury as a hand sanitizer and other commodities were short. Our Amber Specialty Pharmacy actually has produced 40,000 gallons of hand sanitizer for internal use. And so we've been distributing that. We launched the 10% bonus for our employees. So those are really some of the things that we've done just with the customers. And the bigger work I can tell you that I've been involved with that I thought maybe you'd find interesting is just on the supply chain. As some of you may know, I became the chairman of FMI, which is kind of the governing body of grocery stores. Timing's everything, but I just came in January. And so I've had several calls with Secretary Perdue's office working on the supply chain. FMI has also been partnering with the CBA, which is the Old Grocery Manufacturers Association, to work on supply chain issues. The executive committees have been having a call every single week to help streamline the supply chain. So if you think about how we've been getting back in stock, there's been an enormous elimination of SKU count or item count at the stores to try and get the manufacturers caught back up to speed. And so we've worked diligently on that as an industry. As a part of NACDS, the National Association of Chain Drug Stores, we've worked hard on drug supply chain. I'm also on the executive committee of NACDS, and we've been working hard as we've seen some drug supply be limited. And some of the countries, the majority of our drugs today are coming from India and China, some from the Middle East. And as they are keeping product and not shipping it out, we've been working hard to ensure that the pharmacies across the United States don't run out of medications, and especially in this time, several of the things that are in hot demand. The latest supply chain issue that we've worked hard on is with the meat supply chain, as the producers have been closing, and there's been a lot of state influence around the Midwest with closing manufacturing and processing plants. FMI has been working with NAMI, which is North American Meat Association. They have been working hard and resulted in the president's executive order that I just read, actually, that just came out last night, to mandate that the meat processing plants have to stay open. So those are some of the things that we've done. We've also had to really diversify our supply chain. I had an individual, so Cisco Food Service, we partnered with them over the last 4 weeks. Their president is the CEO, is the former president of CVS Health, who I knew from NACDS. We've been taking many, many loads of product from Cisco just to help us stay in stock on certain items. We've got a strong partnership with other retailers, H-E-B down in Texas, Publix in Florida, Wegmans up in New York, that we've partnered around some of the supply chain issues. Been very involved, and you've seen there's some legislative action happening in the egg industry. right now. I was actually on an interview with the Wall Street Journal as egg prices were just soaring up. And so we've been working on that. There's actually been a lawsuit filed now against in the egg industry about price gouging, and so we'll see where that goes. On the pharmacy side, I mentioned the supply chain. We've also been working at NECDS to look at different states in the scope of practice for pharmacists. Right now, just with people not being able to be seen in clinics and hospital systems, we've worked with several states to expand the scope of practice, and this is something that we're working in our states to work on also. Our Amber business, which is our specialty pharmacy company, operates in 20 locations around the United States, was deemed critical infrastructure, and so it is maintained full operation. And so we actually just opened a new pharmacy right in the middle of all this in Atlanta, Georgia, and so it's a unique time to open, but our business there has been very impacted just because hospital systems are very impacted right now and are able to forward a lot of the business our way. And so we've been dealing with some challenges there. The government relations side, operating in 8 states, Georgia Van Gundy, who many of you know, has been an absolute blessing for us, just because we're not only dealing with the governors and the national movement, but you have a lot of cities that the mayors have taken their own action and actually putting us in a tough spot sometimes, because some of what they will do will be different than what the governor has deemed in a state. And so we've had a lot of sorting out to do. We have several cities that are metering customers in. The state of Missouri is metering customers into our stores. Columbia, Missouri has their own metering rules as a part of that. The state of Illinois is doing metering throughout some of Minnesota. So that's been a challenge as they limit our occupancy to 10% of our total occupancy. And so we're literally standing at the doors, counting people in and counting people out in those cities. And so as far as the rest of supply chain, that's been our biggest challenge, is just keeping in stock and working through the suppliers' issues that they have. Then as far as post-COVID-19, I've had the benefit to be involved in some international calls. I was served on a round table with Accenture that was focused on the future of food. It really reviewed the issues that are global right now. So there were representatives from Germany, France, Spain, Italy, UK, and the US talking about how life is going to look with post-COVID-19. As a part of FMI, I was on an international call with IGA, which is, so IGA International is actually based in Wuhan. And so we started looking at how it affected the food industry and how the food industry was coming out of this. We're looking at the global and the economic impact. Morgan Stanley, we've been working with them to look at the impact on restaurants and talking to international folks. If you look across the world right now, restaurants, they're predicting 25 to 35% of all restaurants won't reopen. And they're stating numbers from countries that have dealt with SARS in the past, how it impacted food and the access of food. And so, and then finally, just working with RELA, the Retail Industry Leaders Association. I've had the opportunity to sit in on some of the calls on COVID relief and talk with Secretary Mnuchin and look at how our industry is going to rebound and respond. And so the first initial impact for us, obviously, was just handling the massive influx of business. And as a CEO, I will tell you, we have the most amazing store directors, store managers in the world. They handled it just with an incredible class. And then as we ebb and flow through the different aspects of our business, you know, about 30% of our company is food service related. And so that's been a big hit to us all. One side of the store, we're absolutely booming. The other side of the store, we ground to a halt. And then there's e-commerce. Our e-commerce business is up dramatically. If you look nationally, they predict that we're 4 or 5 years ahead of where they thought e-commerce would be evolving. And nationally, e-commerce is about 9% of the total grocery business right now. and it was in the threes prior to this. And so statistically, there's a lot of guessing really right now to see where that's going to end up and where it's going to land. And so we're prepping for post-COVID-19 of about a 40% decrease in food service coming out of this, even after we reopen. And then we do believe we're going to retain a lot of the e-commerce business out there. And so the estimates from all the folks that I've worked with, as I said, 25 to 35% of all restaurants may not reopen. That's been pretty widespread. There's an estimate that 15,000 retail businesses will close as a result of this also this year. And so those are the things that we're preparing for as we deal with the economics. And then our business today still, center store still remains extremely strong compared to a year ago. And I'm sure that's the case across the country. So that's a quick snapshot. If there's more detail you'd like, I'd be glad to give it. So.
Thanks, Randy. Really appreciate it. Reynolds, you're up.
All right, Jay, thanks. Thanks, everyone. Randy, good job. Obviously, you guys have been towing the line too. Believe me, I understand what it takes. And I won't get into a lot of what Randy talked about just because there's no reason to repeat, but obviously we're in the same business, so a lot of the same things going on. You know, I look back and I say to myself, it was shortly before spring break started when things were starting to become apparent that this was not just, a small issue. And we right away created a command center and have a few key people that every single day we would be having calls and trying to then translate what we needed to get accomplished to our teams and to our stores. Along with that, we started talking to all of our vendors immediately and started talking about the what ifs. And quite honestly, that communication has been why we've been able to have the majority of our products on the shelf every single day. And that's been great for the consumer because, we've really looked at this and said to ourselves, we're here not just to sell groceries and meat, but we're here to serve the public right now because there's such a problem going on. There's nowhere else to go. Obviously, we all have friends. We all have neighbors that have restaurants, that have businesses downtown in every community. And, what an unbelievable struggle that's been for them. And yet, it's been amazing to me how awesome it is that you can go to a restaurant right now and get even cocktails along with your food and desserts. And those restaurants are partnering with cupcake shops downtown and things like that to make the experience still great and help them out. So, we made it a decision a few weeks back that we wanted to help small businesses. So we went to, as you know, all the major chambers in the great state and the surrounding states that we're in to do some type of donation to help small businesses. And so that was just one thing that we've done. And like Randy mentioned, there's just so many opportunities to help out. But I think overall, we have taken the stance that, every single day we have conversations with either the governor herself or her team, CDC, and Homeland Security. That's been happening every single day since the second week in March. Along with that, we talk to our meat suppliers, all of our other major vendors every single day about where things are going, how we can be smart about making sure we have some affordable priced items for the people right now that are suffering that maybe don't have a paycheck, and at the same time not have the super duper sale where we've got all the problems that come with that. So, so many people standing in line wanting a specific item, or the vendor not being able to supply as many things as we might need during that time period. So it's a delicate balance right now to provide the great food that we do, provide the great prices that we do so they're affordable, and yet at the same time make sure that it's attractive also to the consumer, that they want to come out and get those items. So I also will tell you that this has, in a way, shown me just how fortunate not only am I to work for Fairway, but just to be in this business, this industry, because our over 12,000 employees in 6 states have just stepped up like unbelievable. And Randy mentioned it too, and I'm sure he feels the same way about his employees. I mean, they've just stepped up when they really haven't needed to, because when you look around the country, there's a lot of other grocery businesses that are struggling with help and different issues. And I think we're blessed to be in the Midwest. I think we're blessed that we care so much about our employees. And it's not just when a crisis occurs, it's all the time, 52 weeks out of the year. So once again, we just feel very, very fortunate. I think it's been a tough go understanding also how to adapt on a daily basis with the changes from the CDC and from the governor and some of the things that are, one day this is important, one day this isn't. The CDC, as you remember last month, was saying don't wear masks. And, now we look at that and we say, well, that's crazy. And then you deal with the civil liberties and the idea of, mandating that people do things. That's a whole issue to tackle. So we've really tried to push the thought process through with our employees and also to the communities, to our customers, about what's the right thing to do, what makes the most sense, follow and listen to what the governor is talking about, and trust that they're going to make good decisions. Along with that, we're also looking at what does the future hold for the grocery business. I've said it on a lot of interviews where there will be hand sanitizer at every check stand for the rest of eternity. Carts will be wiped down every single day, every minute, every hour for the rest of eternity. There'll probably be some new ultraviolet light situation that we'll be able to use in the future. There'll be new technology. And that's one thing that's come of this whole crisis, is that so many people are stepping up with new ideas, new thought processes, different ways to do things. I mean, before, if we were going to do a meeting like this, it would be like, oh, can't we just all get together in the same room? And now we're finding that people can be very efficient, work from home, use Zoom, use Microsoft Teams, all the different platforms there are, and get work accomplished. So we're actually seeing that, in the future, when we talk about office space and we talk about how things are going to be in the future, this has given some real direction and light to the fact that, office space itself is going to be looked at differently, and meetings are going to be looked at differently. So once again, I think this great nation that we live in, we always adapt, we overcome. And yet at the same time, don't kid yourself. The fact that we've been having the measures that we've had for the businesses being closed, and now they're going to start to reopen slowly, has really one thing to do with that, and that is to keep our healthcare workers safe and the ability to handle the problems. So I know the governor's looking at May 15th saying, I hope between now and then we don't have, a huge surge and all of a sudden we got to backtrack, because that wouldn't be great for anyone. We do need to get the economy rolling. We feel like, we're helping out as much as we can to do that. But the reality is that there are going to be people that continue to get this virus, continue to be sick. Unfortunately, there will be some that will pass away due to it. And the question is how long is that going to go on for? And then does it become what's happening in some of the bigger cities in the country, where it's overwhelming to our healthcare workers? Because the healthcare people, they are the true heroes for sure. We look at our job as we're doing a job to help our communities and help all of our neighbors and loved ones and people we work with. But it's just a job. I've never thought of it as being a hero. I always think of it as it's a public service. And the healthcare workers are the ones that deserve it immensely. So I was at the Methodist yesterday dealing with a loved one of mine that's in the hospital that I had to go to a window to talk to and see from the parking lot. I have a daughter that's quarantined because of some health things, who I talked to for the last month and a half through a window. So I know what it's like to be affected by this, and it isn't going to go away anytime soon. But hopefully, if people pay attention to what they're being told every day by the governor and her staff and the CDC, et cetera, it will help. because I think right now, as people get out and get to other businesses that are getting open, that just means that there's going to be more touch points that they come in contact with, and then they're going to be coming back to the grocery stores. And so we're doing everything we can do, obviously, to keep things safe, sanitary, clean, using all the safety methods that are available. But it really will be important that all of our customers and consumers out there just listen and wear a mask, wash your hands, don't come out, if you have a fever, all those things that we've been hearing. It's even more important right now with the economy starting to open up in Iowa.
Well, Randy and Reynolds, thank you so much. Just one quick question, because this is top of mind right now, on the whole issue with the meatpacking plants. How will that impact your business, and what will you guys be doing to address that? And if one of you wants to take that, that would be great.
Well, I'll step in quick. I got off a call yesterday with the head of FMI, and she's been working with, as I mentioned, the National or North American Meat Association. And so they've been working to try and keep the plants open. And so really, I mean, we really have had minimal impact so far, just because most of the plants that have closed didn't directly affect us. The challenge is, as I look at it, it's just the meat supply chain. You are flirting with just disaster for the Midwest if we don't keep those plants opened up, because of how the supply chain works. And as they're moving hogs and cattle through the system that are moving towards harvesting, and then those plants close, farmers are going to be in this horrible position with no out for their livestock. And then there's a decent amount of supply chain that's already in cold storage that will keep us going for a while. It may not be every item, but we would be fine for a while. But we're literally you could see, if they don't fix it, if the president doesn't do what he's doing, you could see some definite big increases in meat retails and missing items that people are used to. And so hopefully, if there was anything that I worked on the last 2 days, it was this, hoping that the president would step in some way, and he did yesterday. So hopefully that we will dodge this bullet and it won't be a problem for the country. But I think it could have been a big problem if they didn't do something with the plants. There's a lot of behind the scenes work too. I think there's a lot of manufacturers that are getting into liability issues with employees, and that's why they're less willing to just keep things going as normal. And with what the president did, I think that we should be okay, hopefully. So.
Thank you. Reynolds, anything to add to that?
So, I would carry Randy's comments a step further. I would tell you that my direct conversations with these companies, these actual plants, no matter what the president did, there are employees that are nervous about working. And in fact, today at a plant, there was quite a few that didn't come to work. And so this really comes down to the testing opportunities that are available. They started this over a week ago at a few of the plants. It was a long drawn out testing. We're working right now closely with a few people and hoping to partner with some of our vendors in these plants to do the 10-minute tests. And that might give an opportunity for some of these employees to feel a little more secure. But Randy's correct. There are going to be some things that are not going to be available at certain times. Now, at Fairway, I believe, based upon being proactive weeks and weeks ago, I think that we are going to be in pretty good shape overall for the next few months. But the issue really comes down to, it's not just today that the problem is occurring. The issue comes down to the fact that the farmers that are having to, unfortunately, take some of the hogs, some of the chickens, all these things, and the babies, and unfortunately depopulate. That just means that when we get into August, September, October, there's going to be more issues from the standpoint it's going to take longer to fill up the food chain, and that will affect prices, et cetera. I spoke to a small farm family that has about 150 hogs. Unfortunately, they're losing about $20,000 to $25,000 a month right now. Families, they just can't take that. That's not what it's about. So we're looking at ways to promote the opportunities to help out the pork producers, the poultry producers, the beef producers, and hopefully in the next few weeks you'll see some of that. But it is a scary situation, and yet I feel like they are going to ramp things up in a way that they'll be able to cover. But it will definitely come with some absences of opportunities to purchase certain items at certain times for sure. And, part of the reason that for the most part, between March 1st and today, we have not been out of hardly any meat item is because we got on board with some of the restaurant vendors, and a lot of the plants out there, they keep a certain percentage for restaurants. Well, that was sitting there, and what were they going to do with that? So we got a chance to get on board right away and make sure the pipeline was filled up. And thus far, we've been very fortunate. But without a doubt, it has the opportunity a month from now to have some real issue if they can't get the testing and the employees to be at work. That's the real crux right now.
Well, thank you so much, Reynolds. Thank you, Randy, for joining us today. Definitely one of the hottest topics out there right now, and really some really valuable inside information that you provided today. So thank you to you, and thank you to your teams for all you're doing. We really appreciate it very much. I think that's a good segue into our next presentations from our healthcare systems. Joining us today, we have Carl Keeler with Mercy One and David Stark with Unity Point Health. So I'll turn it over. I think that, David, are you going to go first today?
Yeah, I'll go. I'll kick it off, then Carl and I will tag team.
Okay, sounds great.
So Angie, if you want to go to that first one. So I appreciate very much, as everybody's very interested in the grocery side, Reynolds, your comments were well received, and Randy as well. We don't always bring the best news when we talk about the healthcare side, so we'll get some of that out of the way. Milestones the past day were not real positive. We hit 1 million cases in the country yesterday, and this slide that's on for those of you on the screen is the state of Iowa. We're nearing nearly 1,000 positive cases in Polk County since this began, so we're the second highest county in the state. These numbers were updated about an hour ago, so we're over 6,800 cases. And we've doubled in just about a week, a little over a week, as we were less than that. So with more testing, we're seeing more cases. And we did have a high point in the last 24 hours, unfortunately, in terms of numbers of deaths. So we're up to 148. So not the best news, but as we talked about this last week and before, we thought this week and next week would be when the peak was going to hit in Iowa, and that's still largely the projections. We're seeing that. We've seen some additional, nursing home outbreaks, but our capacity here in both the metro and around the state is still in good shape in terms of even what Reynolds was saying, our ability to handle the cases. We'll talk about that in a minute, kind of where our census is here in Des Moines. Other areas have been hurt a lot worse just recently. Sioux City is a real hot spot right now. Waterloo's certainly been there, as you've read. But we continue to hang in there. And the teams respectively are doing great. And Carl's going to talk about some really neat things that have happened here in the county and continued collaboration between us. Angie, just real quick on the next one, then I'll turn it to Carl. The statistics here, again, something directly from the state site, about 52% male, 48% female. You see the age groups. This is another one I like to reference when we talk about the elderly population. That's clearly where most of the fatalities are and the deaths. But nearly 70% of the folks that have tested positive in our state are younger than 60 years old. So the testing of positive clearly is not just for folks that are in nursing homes. The hospitalization rate much lower, and we're seeing a very high discharge rate for those patients that have been hospitalized. So that's also another piece of good news. Can't just have all the bad news, but we've got the good news there. So some additional numbers are on the next slide, and I'll turn it to Carl to talk about those.
So, and this is just in graph form where you can see what the state of Iowa case count is, and this does not have the information from today, but that was just referenced. I think one key point as we look at this and as we talk about the curve isn't as steep as originally projected. So I think all of the work done by the governor and the rest, everyone here to stay at home as much as possible, wear a face mask, hand hygiene has been working. So hopefully, as we see our numbers, it is flatter than originally projected. Just from an incident rate perspective, from the U.S., the incident rate is 17.47%, and the case fatality rate is 5.76%. I think the good news for Iowa, our incident rate so far is 15.38, so a couple percentage less than the national rate. And I think what's even better news is our case fatality rate is just a little bit over 2%. So I think, and that's the fact that we do have an elderly population here, and that's where you're seeing a majority of the fatalities is in the elderly population. But I think from the health system's perspective, I think we're managing those patients well, and you're seeing that in the result in the unfortunate where we do have fatalities, but our rate is under half of what the nation rate is. So I think, again, what we're doing from Reynolds and Randy, what we're doing from a grocery perspective and the rest of the community, I think has been very positive. For the state of Iowa, there are 304 inpatients right now, so not that big of a number. In Region 1, which we're a part of in central Iowa, there's 114. We have 2,164 people that have recovered, and a total hospitalization rate of 4.76%. So, I think we're doing a fairly good job. If you want to go to the next slide, it goes back to David.
And literally to Carl's point, and he has would have a similar slide, actually probably a few more patients, but this gives you a sense of literally how many inpatients we have today, or this was a couple days ago. We're at 31 inpatients here in Des Moines, just on the Unity Point Health side. I think Carl's probably closer to 50 currently, and that puts it in perspective. We have a total census of probably around 500. So it gives you a sense of how many other patients are here versus having the COVID-19. We can handle that. We can handle the increase with even with the vents and so on and so forth. We've been able to manage it really well locally. One of the things that was something new that came up since this call a week ago that we've been working on, and Carl and I have been coordinating as well, is the governor's proclamation to start reopening things, particularly in the elective surgery side. It is not going to be a light switch. It's not going to be, open the floodgates. We're going to do it smartly. Polk County is in one of those 22 counties with the high level, so we're keeping a very close eye on that and looking at making sure we've got the right PPE, the right capacity to be able to open that slowly and maybe start some of those as early as next week. So that's something we're looking to do here locally, and also coordinating and helping with all the other things that you're hearing about. And I'll turn it back to Carl for the next slide, Angie, if you would.
Yeah, and just on that point that David talked about is, I think the key is we have had some of these cases that started out that they were truly elective, but have moved more in the last 6-7 weeks to more urgent cases. And so I think as he talked about some of the cases that are going to be starting up next week, and again, I think we have coordinated between Unity Point and Mercy One very closely around how do we do this together to make sure we're keeping our staff safe, that we're keeping the patients safe, and that the broader community safe as we do this. So, but we are seeing more of those cases that we have held off that are now reaching the urgent to emergent side, that we are starting to do more of those cases. And so we're moving that. I do think, even to Reynolds' comment earlier about testing, Mercy One and Corteva announced today that we have a partnership with regard to broader testing, And so we will be, we actually started testing today on a broad scale and have the ability actually to scale it to quite a large number in the thousands of tests daily. So we do want to work to figure out how do we help getting companies back and operational as soon as possible, as safe as possible. And so we do have the ability to work with anyone on the phone or anyone in the community that would like to work with us to help us test their staff to get them back as safe as possible. So we will be working again with Corteva. It's nice that they have a world-class facility here in Johnston that we've been able to work with them and to provide those tests. So we're excited to help the state just alongside with Test Iowa. A little bit different. Test Iowa, again, you do go in and you take a specific online survey, and then they will work with you if you meet criteria to have the test done. This is a little bit different. This will be working with our medical providers, meeting criteria with your physician, and or if your company wants to do something in addition, we can come out and test your organization. So we're excited to announce that today.
Yep, that's great news, Carl. Thank you. Jay, turn it back to you. That's we'll try and get you back on track here, and we're happy to take any questions.
David, thank you. Carl, thank you. Thanks for sharing that announcement with Corteva. That's a big deal with all those testing, and again, it's showing these sort of the DSM strong and Iowans unite in terms of coming up with creative solutions, and again, things we didn't think we would be even talking about a few months ago. But again, that's just a really great example of innovation and creativity. So congratulations, and it's a big deal for the entire state. So thank you so much for that announcement. Now I'm going to turn it over to Catherine Kunert with Mid-American Energy, who has an exciting announcement to share.
Thanks, Jay, and obviously thanks to all of our partners who are leading our frontline workers. It's so amazing and impressive to see all that you are doing to maintain the sustainability and the resiliency of our community and our region. So many thanks from Mid-American Energy as well as from all of our workforce here. So appreciate all that you are doing. I think that it is a time as we continue to go through this that we need to demonstrate our appreciation. And so we have been doing some work with the lead of the partnership to identify what that may look like. And as you look around the country, there's many things that are occurring, whether it's, people standing out on their porches or standing out on their rooftops, banging some noise and making people aware that they are thankful as well as appreciative for all the work that the grocers and the healthcare workers and the EMTs and the utility workers are doing. And so what we wanted to do was find a time to show that appreciation. We've identified May 6th as the day to do that. May 6th is noted as Nurses Day, and we think that is a great time to say thank you. So right now what we're asking all of you on this call to do is just mark that date. And we're going to provide more details for you as we get some of the information put together for all of you. But we are really wanting you to participate as a business leader, as a business owner, a city official, and just as a proud resident of the great DSM USA community. And so with that, we're going to get some more details, but be thinking creatively on how you might do that within your neighborhoods, within your businesses, and if you have access like to billboards, porch lights, flashing lights. I know I'm going to pull out a trooper car and turn on some flashing lights, I'm pretty darn sure. Maybe pull over David Stark if I could. And then also work on the fact that,
Hey, Catherine.
Yeah. Got to keep you safe there, my friend. And so just be thinking of the ways that as you get more information on this and to help support and show our appreciation. So with that, I will be providing more details and information. And just again, thanks for all the work that you all are doing in your own spaces and then as the collective whole. And also a special thanks to the partnership for always their willingness to take the lead role, to step up and show the ability for our community to work together. So Jay, I know you've heard it a ton, but what you and the partnership have done is just amazing. So special thanks there too.
Thanks, Catherine. Thanks for making time for us today. I know that you and the entire Mid-American team has been just doing incredible work just with what core work to make sure that, everybody is powered up, but just incredible guidance on the economic development industry, not only here in the DSM USA region, but across the state. So kudos to you for that as well. And thanks to you for your idea and your leadership in putting this initiative together. We very much appreciate it. And I think May 6th is going to be something pretty special to recognize our healthcare workers in a real meaningful way, in a way that they have always deserved, but especially here in the last 6 weeks. It's just been incredible the work that they've done. So thank you for that idea and for making it happen, Catherine. We very much appreciate it. We're going to move now into an update on an issue we talked about a couple of weeks ago, but continue to make great progress. Dr. Tom Ahart with Des Moines Public Schools and Steve Purcell with MediaCom to give an update on what's been happening with connecting households in the Des Moines Public School areas to make sure that they have internet connectivity as we're moving educational content online. So I'll turn it over to Tom and Steve.
Thanks, Jay. And I want to also call out the partnership and the Greater Des Moines Community Foundation. I think Lynn's on the line. So we're virtually fully connected. We had about 4,500 households that did not have internet connectivity, and that's really necessary if we're going to do any meaningful continuing education for our 33,000 students, and especially to do that in something that approaches equitable access. And so we've been able to deploy devices. We've distributed almost 20,000 computers to students that didn't already have one at home. And we now have virtually everyone connected to the internet, many through MediaCom, and Steve and his team have just been magnificent in expediting connections for hundreds and hundreds of families. And that's work that we hope to continue because what we have on the horizon that some of our previous speakers have mentioned is a real likelihood of a second wave of the virus hitting us, probably concurrent with when we're already going to be wrestling with the typical flu season, which is just going to complicate things. So we're attempting to learn as much as we can through this process and be able to turn around to a virtual delivery system much more rapidly when and if conditions require it. So I'll turn it over to Steve, and then I'm going to have to sign off here to get to another commitment here shortly.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yep, thank you, Tom. Yeah, as Tom mentioned, we've been working feverishly with the Des Moines School District and working directly with their team. The difficulties we ran into is, interesting enough, is a lot of wiring, which used to be good in homes, is no longer good. So we've had to change our philosophy and actually enter in these homes and making sure that our field staff have all the proper precautions with PPE and things. But that's been a general thing for us, is making sure our frontline team is prepared, not only when they're going into homes, but also to make sure they're safe, as they're entering homes and are healthy getting that done. So we've went physically to over 1,000 homes now, and we're continuing at a pace of about 100 a day with some contractors that we have, but also a lot of our internal staff, and using our internal resources to pre-provision all these modems. And it's kind of an interesting balancing act when we got our normal day-to-day business, but we've really taken this to a side deal, and a lot of our managers and supervisors are helping with the provisioning and the setups, and then technicians grabbing modems and running out and running drops and going into households. So the cost index has changed a little bit now that we're going into homes, and and looking at the hours and things like that. But it's something we're committed to. We committed to getting this completed for the schools. And we're looking now probably at close to probably over $250,000 what's going to cost us to get this entire program completed, from just an employee expense type of a framing. But it's definitely something that's needed for the Des Moines School District, and we're more than happy to step up and provide that support.
Thanks, Steve, and thanks, Tom. And I believe Lynn Yantz with the Community Foundation is on the line too and has another announcement to make in conjunction with this initiative. Lynn?
Great, thank you, Jay. Yes, last week we were excited that Mary Bontrager from the partnership and Tom Ahart from the Des Moines Public Schools reached out to the Community Foundation of Greater Des Moines, and excited that today we have established a fund at the Community Foundation that will enable individuals and corporations to be able to fund this connectivity that Tom has just described. The title of that fund is on your PowerPoint slide there, DMPS Equity and Connectivity Fund. And we today made that live on our website, and we have a link that we can share with everyone so that anyone who's interested in contributing to support this effort to provide this internet connectivity for Des Moines Public Schools students can be part of that.
Thank you so much, Lynn. And I believe Steve McCullough with Iowa Student Loan is also on the call, and he has an announcement he would like to make.
Jay, Iowa Student Loan is going to make a contribution of $5,000 to help get this fund started. We see these future college students as probably the most needy in terms of additional assistance so they can continue their K through 12 education.
Thank you, Steve.
That is awesome. That is fantastic. Thank you for your leadership, and thanks to Des Moines Public Schools Foundation, Iowa Student Loan, MediaCom, everybody who's been working to pull this together. We still have some work to do, but I think this is a Herculean task, and we've made significant progress. So congratulations to all of you for your great work. So thank you so much. We are now going to move into, you probably have seen some articles about the Downtown Farmers Market, and this is an event that is loved by our region. It's an event that some people don't always realize that the partnership and our team is working on, but Kelly Foss has been working with the Downtown Farmers Market for how many years now, Kelly? 20 years?
This is celebrating my 20th year.
20 years, and so celebrating 20 years with dealing with this new next normal. So Kelly's going to give just a brief overview about our virtual market that we're going to be running for the next 3 weeks. So Kelly.
Yeah, I would have never imagined an anniversary gift like this. So thank you. Thanks, Jay. I'm happy to offer an update. So yeah, we're innovating in real time to adapt to the guidelines during this COVID-19 pandemic. And we're just really working to ensure that the public can continue to eat safely while also supporting our local community. So just to backtrack just a bit, on March 23rd, following the news of the pandemic, we announced the need to postpone the farmers market indefinitely until further notice. And since that time, we've been working with our farmers and vendors on a virtual market concept to roll out. And then last Friday, the governor announced that farmers markets are essential and could open in a very limited way if they're able to modify to and adhere to these very specified health and safety requirements and guidelines. And so this opened an opportunity for farmers markets around the state to take these guidelines into consideration to determine necessary modifications. So as we know, with the size of the downtown farmers market, there are many elements to take into consideration. And so we're looking at all possibilities, but we continue to work with the governor's office on all plans moving forward. We really appreciate that our state leaders recognize the importance of supporting local food producers. Determining next steps for the outdoor market is just really going to be a collaborative effort with the city of Des Moines. And we've already started those conversations. It's just really too early to tell what the next steps will be. But as we move forward on this plan, safety and supporting all of our vendors are really of utmost importance. And I know we are all craving the kind of the fun and the freshness of the downtown farmers market. So we're going to kick off with what would be our opening day with a virtual Saturday morning market meetup. And you're all invited to join us on Saturday for the first ever virtual downtown farmers market. So we're partnering with DSM TV. We're going to be hosting a live 1-hour virtual market. It'll start at 8 a.m. on the farmers market Facebook. And just to reiterate, this is going to happen in place of the outdoor market. There was just a little bit of a confusion when we announced this yesterday. So we're going to do it this Saturday and then also plan to do it May 9th and 16th as well. And it's going to be very interactive. We'll include highlights with vendors and products and sponsors. We'll also include details on how to purchase vendor products and share opportunities, how people can connect with vendors online. And of course, we're going to include live farmers market music and entertainment. And all the fun will start with our opening bell ceremony at 8 a.m. So hopefully you can join us. We're excited to really kick the season off with this virtual market on Saturday morning. And just as we all know, our top priority is really the health of the community. And this option really gives us a chance to celebrate this fun, exciting, beloved community event. And while we can help our local producers, and we can do it in a safe way while practicing physical distance. I'd like to give a huge shout out to our presenting sponsor, Unity Point Health, for really helping us to accomplish this.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Thanks for making time today, and really looking forward to participating in this Saturday and as we continue to evolve in terms of what this can look like throughout the rest of the season. So thank you for your leadership, Kelly.
Yeah,
I'm going to turn it over to Tiffany for we're just a couple minutes over, and I apologize for that. We just have a few quick action calls and then we'll wrap it up. So thank you for bearing with us. A lot of content today. Thank you so much.
So rapid fire updates. We're going to get to these slides real quickly here. Just a reminder, please get involved in any of these initiatives in any ways that feel appropriate to you and your team. We want and need your help to continue to move forward strong as a region. The reminder, of course, of the virtual market meetup tomorrow, kicking off at Saturday, May 2nd, kicking off at 8 a.m. The Frontline Appreciation event, which will be something that we can all do in our own homes and businesses without any sort of physical presence. That will be May 6th, so look for more information on that. Please continue to participate in the In for Lunch virtual event. Those are Thursdays at noon. There are links available for you there to participate. And then also our DSM music mix is still available on our website. So ask you to continue to share that. And then we have multiple events. If we scroll forward to the next slide here, there are multiple events coming up in the next few days that we would invite you to participate in. You're welcome to click on that link with the partnership events website for a longer listing, but quick, again, highlight of the Principal Charity Classic event that we have. It's a virtual briefing with Jay Haas and Miller Brady, so that will be fantastic. Please register for that. And then also Drake Athletics has a really cool briefing lined up for us on Friday. So feel free to register for those. And then also the Diversity and Inclusion program with Claudia Schabel. Those are just a few of the highlights.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. Thanks everybody for joining us. One other quick announcement. This was probably going to be in Meg's update, but we had to streamline some of those today. But our small business grant program, which we discussed at length last week, will be rolled out publicly next week. So stay tuned for that as well. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Thank you for your leadership. We're going to continue to host these investor briefings every Wednesday at noon. So hopefully you can join us again next week as your schedule allows. And remember, together, we are DSM strong. Let's keep it going out there and keep doing the great work. Thanks for joining us today. We appreciate your leadership very much. If any of us can be helpful anytime, please feel free to reach out to us at the partnership, any of us. I'm happy to chat anytime. And if there's anything we can do to be helpful to help get the community through this, please let us know. So remember, DSM strong. Thank you.